Another day, another Republican debate, and this time it wasn't just about one or two candidates. Donald Trump went 28 minutes without speaking at one point. Shades of Clarence Thomas. We heard a lot more from some of the GOP contenders who've been backburnered in rounds 1 and 2, but when it came to content, the jury's still out. CNBC billed this debate as being all about the economy. They called it your money, your vote. But what was said about the economy? Here's a quick roundup.
We have a $19 trillion bipartisan debt.
We now have a 73,000-page tax code.
I didn't say that the rate would be 10%. I used the tithing analogy.
We're reducing taxes to 15%.
Right and left are spending us into oblivion.
Why don't we just give a chicken in every pot while we're coming up with these fantasy tax schemes?
You find a Democrat that's for cutting taxes, cutting spending $10, I'll give them a warm kiss.
Warm kisses aside, beyond that, there wasn't much money talk. What there was a little bit of fighting and a lot of media bashing. Joining me for more on all this are Keiko Orrell. She's a Republican state rep from Lakeville. She's supporting Marco Rubio. Good to see you. Mike Astro, who was Social Security Commissioner under President George W. Bush and a little bit under Obama. Hello to you. And Joe Malone, former state treasurer, former Republican. He's now an independent, undecided in the race. Joe, good to see you as well. So as a debate about the economy, was there even one moment where you said to yourself, aha, he or she really has a credible plan for creating jobs, reducing income inequality? Was there even one of those last night?
During the debate, I don't think so, because of the nature of the questions that were asked and the way that
It's all the media's full.
I think so.
And so are you shaking your head in agreement?
I think it was the worst journalistic performance of any presidential
We'll get to that.
debate.
Okay,
anyway.
fine. So they were horrible.
Yes.
Grown men and women, if they have something to say. He used to do this for a living. You answer the question and then you say what you're there for, no?
But in 60 seconds, you can't come up with a detailed plan for the economy. You can only state your themes.
How about an itty-bitty plan for the economy?
You know, I thought some of them did a pretty good job of projecting what they would
like
do.
Who? Give me one
I
example.
think Fiorina did a pretty good job. You know, whether
What
she
particular
connected
piece?
with, in terms of the need to pull back government from a regulatory point of view, not just looking at the dollars. I think her handle on the numbers and some of the others was better than Carson's and some of the others.
How about you? Was there a moment last night where you said, aha, I think that man or woman really gets it?
Sure. First of all, I concur with these two folks that the moderators were ridiculous. They took everything down. What's your worst trade?
That's my next question for you, actually. It's funny you should say that.
So now we go to the point of how do you lay out your policies on corporate taxes or on growing the economy and so forth in that little time. It's a shame. We've gotten used to the idea that we're judging the candidates based on who had the best one-liner as opposed to who has the best policy.
It's a perfect segue. Speaking of best one-liner, the conventional wisdom, it went to your guy, Marco Rubio. Here's the war for Florida. You're first going to hear Jeb Bush, the former mentor, and then the mentee, the former mentee, Marco Rubio. Take a listen.
Marco, when you signed up for this was a 6-year term. And you should be showing up to work. I mean, literally, the Senate, what is it, like a French work week? You get like 3 days where you have to show up. You can campaign or just resign and let someone else take the job. There are a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck in Florida as well. They're looking for a senator that will fight for them each and every day.
I get to respond, right?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Well, it's interesting. Over the last few weeks, I've listened to Jeb as you've walked around the country and said that you're modeling your campaign after John McCain, that you're going to launch a furious comeback the way he did by fighting hard in New Hampshire and places like that, carrying your own bag at the airport. You know how many votes John McCain missed when he was carrying out that furious comeback that you're now modeling it under?
Say goodnight, Jeb. No, I mean, you know the Bushes. They both memorized. One memorized their line, the other one memorized the response. But Rubio cleaned his clock, did he not?
Yeah, he did. And I say that with nothing but, general respect for Governor Bush, but it was not a good moment. And what's worse is it was planned.
On both sides, but on both sides.
Well, yeah. But, it just was the wrong way for him to go down. Is it fatal? Probably not, but it means that the window for him to turn it around has gotten very small.
One of the things the press that none of you likes to do is say, aha, he or she is the person who's all of a sudden going to explode. Before last night, the line was Marco Rubio. He's the guy who's going to emerge from the traditional politician pack as opposed to the Trump-Carson-Fiorina axis. But last night, and he got rave reviews, is that one-liner there. He gives some answer about his humble family in terms of why his finances are a mess. Are those the answers that should propel a man to the top tier of a presidential race, Representative?
I think what he showed last night was that he has the substance. He has he has the story.
Tell me, well, the story he may have. What's the substance?
The substance is that he has the breadth of understanding of foreign policy on that stage, clearly far and away. And I think that he has the experience being the Speaker of the House, being within the Senate, and being able to work with others. He's the one who can bring people together, and I think that that's what I see in him. And
when
that's
Jeb
what
Bush calls him
I'm
the Obama of
supporting
the GOP, meaning young and not much experience, is that not a legitimate criticism?
I think that there is something to being positive about his youth, and I think that that's something that's good. And he is full of energy. He's full of hope. He's full of optimism. He's full of strength.
Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else.
No, I wasn't going
okay,
anywhere
fine. I want to be
else.
clear.
No.
We haven't talked about Trump or Carson, the prohibitive front runners right now. It seems to me, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the reasons you left the party is what's attracting a lot of people to Trump and Carson. Is that not a fair statement?
It's more complicated than that.
Well, then fill me in.
So I think what's attracting people to Trump, let's say, is he's got a certain brashness and a toughness about him. And when you contrast that with, number one, Obama, who they perceive as soft and basically giving the country away and foreign policy-wise being dangerously soft, but also last time around with Mitt Romney, he just seemed so fearful of choosing the wrong word that he looked like a guy who was, in the bright lights.
Well,
so now you got someone like Trump who's fearless.
Neither of them, I would argue, had terrific moments last night. But do you all get why between them, they have close to 50% of the vote, even though Trump's down a little bit, Carson's up a little bit. There is a certain appeal, is there not? Is there not
Sure,
for you?
but I also think, in contrast to the past, we have a lot of unknown candidates. People really have not made up their minds. It's been volatile. It's going to continue to be volatile. I think what we're going to see from the more conservative wing of the party is I think Carson lost a lot of ground yesterday. And
By doing what?
I think he just came across as tentative.
When has he not been tentative except when he's comparing everything to slavery or saying Muslims shouldn't?
I also think the thing about the supplement company seemed a little hinky to people. And
not having anything to do with it, even though he did a spot for them.
Well, and it's just the nature of that kind of business, too. But I think that actually the big winner last night, and you're not going to like this, was Ted Cruz.
Well, speaking of Ted Cruz, talk about segues, and you all were bashing the media. Here are two guys who are expert at it. Here's first Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, followed by the man you mentioned, Ted Cruz of Texas. Here they are.
Carl, are we really talking about getting government involved in fantasy football? Wait a second. We have $19 trillion in debt. We have people out of work. We have ISIS and Al-Qaeda attacking us. And we're talking about fantasy football? Can we stop?
The questions that have been asked so far in this debate illustrate why the American people don't trust the media. This is not a cage match. And you look at the questions. Donald Trump, are you a comic book villain? Ben Carson, can you do math? John Kasich, will you insult two people over here? Marco Rubio, why don't you resign? Jeb Bush, why have your numbers fallen? How about talking about the substantive issues people care about?
Was that the quote you, Mike Esther, to say that he had the best night? Was it that moment?
That was part of it. I think he was very strong overall. I think in the first two debates, he came across as rather robotic, and I don't think his poll numbers moved. But I think last night he got his human story across several times, which is very compelling. That moment, attacking the media, captured what almost every Republican watching that debate felt, and he was the one that got it first and got it best. And so my guess is he's going to take 5 points from Carson.
So you think he had a breakthrough? Who had a decent night last night who's going to enter at least come close to the top tier?
So I thought Rubio, Cruz, and Trump all looked confident, assertive, and strong. And that's what Republicans are looking
Trump
for.
Ultimately, aren't
No,
you?
I'm just
Yes,
saying
he
he's
is,
good
I
for
can
this
tell.
race. He is good for this race.
Okay, and other than Rubio, because that's your guy, who was the second person you think had a really good night last night who has potential to enter the top tier?
I still like Fiorina. I think that she has a lot to offer, and I think that she can stay in the race, and I think that we need to have a smaller field of candidates to have more substantive conversations, and that's where it's unfortunate that we have so many people in the race.
Representative Orl, it's good to see you. What did you bring me? Turnips from your farm? What are those things?
Butternut squash.
Butternut squash. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mike. It's great to see you, Joe.
Likewise. Good seeing you,
Appreciate it.